Watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In World News headlines today: police raid occupied encampments in Los Angeles and Philadelphia. An ex-U.S. Navy officer indicted for 1973 deaths of U.S. citizens in Chile. And defying veto threat, Senate advances indefinite detention measure. And up to 2 million workers strike in Britain. And former Ivory Coast leader charged with crimes against humanity at The Hague. And U.S. questioned on Egypt's tear gas shipments. And Clinton arrives in Burma for a landmark visit. And Pakistan boycotts NATO conference in protest of deadly raid. And Britain withdraws diplomatic staff from Iran after embassy incident. An anti-crime activist slain in Mexico. And WMO 2011, one of the hottest years on record. An ex-U.S. Navy officer indicted for 1973 deaths of U.S. citizens in Chile. And Cambodian workers to 4 U.S. brands a stage strike. And Michigan appoints emergency manager for Flint. New York City Council votes to sue Bloomberg over homeless rules. And Perry gets voting age date wrong, picks up endorsement from Arizona Sheriff Arpaio, I think it's Arpaio. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, police in Los Angeles are clearing out a downtown protest encampment and the latest in a series of raids on Occupy Wall Street-related sites nationwide. More than 1,000 police officers in riot gear descended on the encampment around Los Angeles City Hall shortly after midnight. Scores of people were arrested as police tore down the tents around the site. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, around 100 protesters vacated their encampment earlier yesterday after police moved in and warned them of mass arrests. And the Senate has advanced a controversial measure that would authorize the military to jail anyone it considers a terrorism suspect without charge or trial anywhere in the world, including the United States. The provision is attached to a large military spending bill that's before the Senate this week. On Tuesday, the Senate voted 61-37 to defeat a measure that would remove the new indefinite detention policy, as well as other controversial measures. The White House has promised to veto the entire bill should the provisions remain. In Britain, up to 2 million public sector workers have launched the country's first mass strike in more than 30 years. A coalition of 30 trade unions has organized approximately 1,000 demonstrations and rallies across the country. And former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo has been arrested and transferred to The Hague to face charges of crimes against humanity. Gbagbo arrived in the Netherlands overnight after being taken from house arrest in the Ivory Coast. An International Criminal Court spokesperson announced the charges. Fadi Al-Abdallah said Mr. Laurent Gbagbo has been arrested and transferred to the ICC detention center in the night. That's in accordance with the warrant of arrest issued by Pretrial Chamber 3. That's for charges of crimes against humanity, murder, persecution, execution, rape, and other sexual violences, also known other inhumane acts that allegedly has been perpetrated in Cote d'Ivoire in the post-electoral period, which was where the violence was committed in this country. Gbagbo is accused of responsibility for the violence that killed more than 3,000 people after he refused to step down. Despite losing presidential elections a year ago, his attorney says he has been wrongfully seized and plans to challenge his detention in court. The Obama administration is facing scrutiny over the recent shipments of tear gas from the U.S. firm to the military government in Egypt. Workers at Egypt's Suez seaport revealed an initial 7-ton shipment from the company Combined Systems recently arrived. Egyptian forces have used U.S.-made tear gas in an attempt to break up the mass protest against military rule in Tahrir Square. On Tuesday, State Department spokesperson Mark Toner was questioned about the shipments. One reporter asked, "What does that say then when you've got tear gas shipments arriving in the port of Suez with Made in the USA on the side of them?" And Mark Toner replied, "Well, it's, again, as I said, this tear gas is approved for export to many countries around the world. It's used by police forces in many countries around the world, including our own." Then a reporter asked, "But you've seen instances, haven't you, in the past week or so where it's been misused?" And Mark Toner said, "Right. And let me just finish my last point, which was saying that we certainly condemn the misuse of tear gas that would result in death and injury, and any kind of misuse to that extent would certainly cause us to think, and has potential to jeopardize future exports." Well, it was kind of garbled there. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has arrived in Burma as part of an easing of ties between the United States and the ruling military junta. Clinton's visit marks the first by a U.S. Secretary of State in 50 years. President Obama said he authorized Clinton's trip after getting support from Burmese pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi earlier this month. Pakistan has announced a boycott an upcoming international conference in Afghanistan in protest of the deadly NATO cross-border attack that killed 24 Pakistani soldiers at a military checkpoint. The international gathering is due to take place in Germany next week to discuss the future of Afghanistan following NATO's scheduled withdrawal in 2014. Boycott announcement follows Pakistan's earlier moves demanding the U.S. vacate an airbase as well as blocking NATO supply lines. NATO spokesperson said the bombing is still under investigation. Karsten Jacobson said, "There unfortunately were a number of Pakistan military casualties. The ongoing investigation regarding the incidents is underway and has the highest level of the ISAF commander's attention." Commander of the ISAF, General Allen, has put great emphasis the last couple of days that this will be investigated thoroughly. Britain is withdrawing a portion of its diplomatic staff from Iran after protesters stormed the British embassy in Tehran. On Tuesday, hundreds of protesters overran 2 diplomatic buildings, chanting "Death to Britain," and setting fire to the Britain flag and a car. The incident came 1 week after the British government cut all relations with Iran's financial sector as part of the new sanctions coordinated with the United States and Canada. Norway has also closed its embassy due to security concerns. In Washington, President Obama criticized the storming of the embassy. And he said rioters essentially to be able to overrun the embassy and set it on fire is an indication that the Iranian government is not taking its international obligations seriously, and so obviously we are deeply concerned about that situation. We expect to see some sort of definitive action sometime very quickly. Sure. A Mexican activist who was accused police of kidnapping his son has been shot dead in northern Mexico. Nepomuceno Moreno had been a vocal member of the movement of peace with justice and dignity, which was campaigning against rampant crime and corruption in Mexico's drug war. He was shot at least 5 times on Monday while driving his car. An activist who worked with Moreno said Moreno had only recently met with Mexican President Felipe Calderón, telling him he needed protection out of fear for his life. Pedro Amiglio said, "This is undignified and embarrassing for a man who asked for justice for a son who disappeared over a year ago, a son who has been jailed with invented charges as he showed. His daughter was fired from a job in the government, and the fact that he was killed in the middle of town after having asked for protection to the president 1 month before. The World Meteorological Organization is warning 2011 is one of the hottest years on record. Human activity is to blame, according to WMO findings. Warmest 13 years of average global temperatures have all occurred in the 15 years since 1997, with temperatures in 2011 cited as the 10th highest in record, higher than any previous year, with a so-called La Nina event. The report was unveiled at the United Nations Climate Change talks in Durban, South Africa. The Deputy Secretary General of WMO, Jerry Langiosa, said that it has backed previous studies linking global warming to extreme weather. We are observing a change in our climate. Now, temperature is a key indicator. Changing climate, one of the key things about that is that the extreme hot days, or a number of hot days, increasing with an increasing warmer climate. It also means extreme events such as floods, hurricanes, and droughts are becoming more and more frequent. The number of warmer days, as I said, are increasing. So our climate is changing. In Chile, a former U.S. Navy officer has been indicted for his alleged role in the killing of 2 other U.S. citizens shortly after 1973 military coup. Officer Ray Davis headed to the U.S. military group at the U.S. Embassy in Santiago at the time. He is accused of supplying information on the victims, Charles Horman, Frank Terugi, to the Chilean military and then failed to prevent their murders. The judge in the case has asked for authorization to seek Davis' extradition to Chile. Workers at the Cambodian garment factory that produced clothes for the major U.S. retailers have gone on strike over the suspension of their union representatives. The Workers' Friendship Union Federation says the strike will continue until 3 union representatives are reinstated. The factory produces garments for U.S. brands Gap, JCPenney's, and Old Navy. Michigan has authorized a state takeover of the city of Flint, citing a financial emergency. Michigan Governor Rick Snyder has appointed former Flint Mayor Michael Brown as the city's new financial manager. Flint is now the 5th Michigan municipality to come under state-appointed management. Maybe they should get Michael Moore in there. The New York City Council has voted to sue Mayor Michael Bloomberg over new restrictions that critics say will force homeless people from shelters out into the streets. Under the new rules, adults seeking to spend the night at shelters would be required to submit information, including documents about their housing history and finances. The council is expected to file its lawsuit next month. And Texas Governor and Republican presidential hopeful Rick Perry is making headlines for another gaffe on the campaign trail. Speaking in New Hampshire, Perry mistakenly asserted that the voting age in the United States is 21 instead of 18, and also got the date of the 2012 election wrong by 6 days. And the governor said, "Those of you who are sitting in this hall who are going to inherit this country are counting on us. Those who are going to be over 21 on November 12th, I ask for your support. Those of you who won't be, just work hard, because you're going to inherit this, and you're counting on us getting it right." Perry, meanwhile, has picked up endorsement of Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio, known as one of the staunchest anti-immigrant figures in the United States. Arpaio campaigned for Perry at a series of appearances in New Hampshire on Tuesday. In today's, and the world story, that's it for the world news today. Now we must thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
Something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right. It's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter, not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Monday, 10:28 a.m. Caller from 200 block of North Auburn Street reported theft of a drill. At 11:33 a.m., a stolen Jeep was located in the 400 block of Carroll Drive. At 12:09 p.m., a caller from 600 block of Escaton Circle reported theft of a $5,000 ring in February. I guess it's about time to turn that one in, huh? 12:15 p.m., caller from Condon Park reported 3 men smoking marijuana in the state park who were advised to leave. At 3:31 p.m., a caller from Memorial Park reported 5 juveniles smoking marijuana who were admonished and told to leave. At 6:22 p.m., a woman from 2000 block of Nevada City Highway reported her husband broke her finger, but she could not be located. At 6:28 p.m., a caller from 600 block of Freeman Lane reported a drunken driver hit another vehicle. He was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. At 7:01 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Ocean Avenue reported 2 men looking into the windows of a house, who then asked for a piece of firewood. On Saturday, people were trying doorknobs in the area. 8:33 p.m., a caller from 400 block of South Auburn Street reported a physical fight involving 3 men and a woman. All declined charges. 11:33 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Neal Street reported a man was stealing wipes and using them to clean walls. He had been asked not to return. On Tuesday, 6 a.m., a woman from 100 block of Catherine Lane reported a man was trying to break down his apartment door. He could not be located. The Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Monday, 8:51 a.m. Caller from 22,000 block of Pleasant Valley Road reported someone entered a quarry and damaged tools and grounds. At 10:27 a.m., a caller from Loma Rica Drive reported an ongoing issue with vandalism to company vehicles. 12 p.m., a woman from Slate Creek Road reported juveniles possibly using drugs. 1:44 p.m., a caller from 14,000 block Highway 174 reported ex-tenants possibly broke into a garage and took stored items. Tenant reported the ex-landlord would not let them retrieve property. 2:08 p.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Allison Ranch Road reported an assault on November 7th. No crime was found to have occurred. 2:09 p.m., a caller from Harmony Ridge Road reported an assault November 27th. 3:53 p.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Bethany Springs Road reported identity theft. And 4:51 p.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Rollins Park Drive reported check fraud. 4:56 p.m., a caller from Business in Nevada City Highway reported a missing 7-year-old boy. He was found. Jeez, I'm dying here. he was found to have walked home. 6:09 p.m., caller from 22,000 block of Highway 20 reported residential burglary. And 6:30 p.m., a caller from 31,000 block of Relief Hill Road reported a physical fight between a man and a woman. It was found to be verbal only. 7:04 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Pino Way reported a golden lab named Buddy, who had been chained up for 5 days with no one home. The dog had been chained in a dog run. Someone had been checking on him. Buddy was okay. 8:13 p.m., caller from 24,000 block of Camellia Way reported a man stole a debit card. At 9:03 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Forest View Drive reported possibly burglary in progress. 9:04 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Rough and Ready Highway reported a driver of a truck in a dispute with another vehicle trying to force the car off the road. They could not be located. At 9:30 p.m., a caller from Gaudier Drive reported a prowler on the property who could not be located. At 11:45 p.m., a caller from Ballantyre Lane reported a woman and a child arrived by taxi and did not have the $400 to $500 needed to pay the driver. The driver declined charges and they were given a ride to a hotel. And Tuesday, 1:43 a.m., a caller from Buck Mountain Road and Carrot Drive reported a vehicle parked in the middle of the road and teens running around. And Nevada City Police Department on Monday, 2:05 p.m., person was cited on Spring Street on suspicion of urinating in public. And 2:13 p.m., a caller from Commercial Street reported theft of a wallet from a glove box of a vehicle. And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who support your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Sorry about the coughing, but you know, a cold's a cold. In today's local news headlines, Hauser trial gets underway, and blast at Nevada Union High School leads to felony charges. And rumors of a name change for Grass Valley's 44-year annual Cornish Christmas are false, according to Downtown Association Executive Director Howard Levine. In our first local story, written by Liz Keller, at the Union, trial of a convicted felon allegedly found in possession of a meat cleaver, a loaded revolver, and ammunition started in Nevada County Superior Court on Tuesday. Ronald James Hauser, 50, allegedly was driving erratically down Indian Springs Road, crossing into oncoming lane when he was spotted by Nevada County Sheriff's Deputy Jeff Martin at about 11:45 p.m. on January 28, 2010. Martin was expecting a routine traffic stop, said Deputy District Attorney Jim Phillips. Instead, said Phillips, an uncooperative and evasive Hauser did not pull over to the shoulder, but instead drove onto private property and made a three-point turn, so his vehicle faced Martin. He initially refused to exit the vehicle, then scuffled with Martin as the deputy tried to pat him down. Martin testified Hauser was driving under the speed limit and had drifted over the fog line twice before he tried to pull him over. After Hauser got out of the vehicle, he was behaving erratically, then pulled away from Martin, grabbing his wrist. At that point, Martin testified he called for backup. After warning him repeatedly to keep his hands in sight, Martin said Hauser turned away from him. I pepper sprayed him in the face, Martin said. Hauser allegedly slipped out of the leather vest he was wearing and swung it at Martin as they continued to scuffle. It wasn't until a backup deputy arrived and threatened to shoot him with a taser that Hauser complied and was arrested. A 17-year-old girl in the vehicle with Hauser ran from the vehicle as soon as it stopped, Martin said. Martin testified that he found a 24-inch long metal chain in Hauser's vest and about 24 live .22 rounds of ammunition. Martin then searched Hauser's vehicle and found a large meat cleaver between the driver's seat and the center console, and a loaded .22 revolver under the driver's seat. He told me he bought the firearm off the street for $50 so he could protect himself, Martin said. He said he had been in prison for quite a while. Defense attorney Bill Walker questioned Martin as to why he was on patrol on Indian Springs Road and why the dash-mounted camera inside his patrol car did not record the incident. Walker also questioned Martin's use of pepper spray, asking him whether he sprayed up Hauser's nose for 8 seconds. And he replied, no, it was maybe 2 to 4 second burst, Martin said, denying a second spray. Sheriff Deputy Christopher Sharp testified that he ran the gun serial number to check on whether it had been stolen. Hauser told him he had bought the gun for protection. He had received threats to his life in Marysville. Deputy Micah Arbaugh, who was the second to arrive on the scene, testified he saw Martin retrieve the cleaver and gun from the vehicle. The prosecution rested after these 3 witnesses. The defense witness will testify in the court on the, well, this will be yesterday actually, so I'll let you know what goes on. In another Liz Keller story, 2 students face felony charges after detonating what is believed to have been an M80 firework Monday in a toilet at Nevada Union High School. Both juveniles were charged with possession of an explosive device on school property, criminal conspiracy, felony vandalism, and probation violation, all felonies, according to the Nevada County Sheriff's Office. Blast was heard throughout the campus, said Sergeant Bill Smithers. Well, that was a sheriff's sergeant. 16-year-old juvenile was booked into Nevada County Juvenile Hall, while his 15-year-old accomplice was cited and released in his parents' custody. They are lucky they didn't seriously injure somebody, Smithers said. Nevada Union High School principal Mike Blake said the firework was detonated in a toilet shortly before 11 a.m. in the boys' bathroom in the J wing of the school's campus. Smithers said other students were in the restroom as the blast occurred. I heard a loud noise and thought it was an explosion, said Spencer Keller, a 16-year-old NU junior who was between classes during the incident. Nobody thought the school was under attack or anything. Typically containing 3 to 5 grams of explosives, M80s are banned along with cherry bombs by the Consumer Protection Safety Commission in the 1960s because of their destructive potential for bodily harm. The one used Monday demolished the toilet it was placed in, Blake said. Smithers said the blast shot the toilet seat into the ceiling light fixtures, destroying them. He estimated more than $400 in damage. Both juveniles were quickly identified by campus resource officers who reviewed surveillance footage. It was disruptive and loud, but we didn't have anybody hurt, Blake said, adding the students also face suspension and expulsion. They're facing some pretty serious consequences. And they're basically lucky they still have their fingers. In a Christopher Rosacker story, rumors of the name change for the Grass Valley 44th year annual Cornish Christmas are false, according to Downtown Association Executive Director Howard Levine. I was going to do this story, but ran out of time. That's it for local news today. GVTV News would like to thank Associated Press, Reuters, Amy Goodman, the Union, and others for the social media news. And you for watching. Don't forget, we are broadcast 3 times a day. Public access, NCTV, Comcast 11, and Suddenlink Channel 16 in Truckee and Alta Sierra, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Monday through Friday.